Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and the author of the newly to be released on November 21st new book, The 7 Laws of Abundant Living, Lessons Learned from the Tree of Life. 7 key areas, 7 lessons in each area, and you will be blessed by this. If you order it now, you'll have it in time for Thanksgiving, The 7 Laws of Abundant Living, Lessons Learned from the Tree of Life. We are delighted to welcome to our program today Tom Baker, author of the newly released book, One Dog's Faith. Tom Baker, welcome to the program.
Hi, Eric. Great to be on your show and great to meet you.
Well, Tom has worked in entertainment, radio, and television for over 35 years. He graduated with a degree in marketing from the University of Tennessee and has been a TV and radio writer and producer since 1987. Work history includes an ad agency writer, producer, a radio and television commercial writer, producer, editor, senior video editor for various production companies. He's worked on projects for A&E, Discovery, HGTV, the Food Network, Travel Channel, just a long list of projects, heading up as executive producer and owner of Cobblestone Entertainment. He is a published author, public speaker, active in his church. He plays drums in the contemporary worship band. He and his wife, Michelle, have 4 children, as well as rescue dogs, 4 rescue dogs, including Mango. They've got a rescue cat and the fish. Now, the fish is not a rescue fish.
No, the fish is purchased.
First, okay.
Yeah,
right.
And it was actually our 10-year-old Christian wanted a shark for Christmas, and so we got the fish, and that was a compromise.
Well, that sounds like a compromise. You like hiking in the Smoky Mountains, camping and playing tag and board game past bedtime. Tom, you and I both work in the entertainment and the media field, and there are certain things which are unique to what we do as far as the struggles that we have as individuals that the public can never see. You've taken in this story, One Dog's Faith, and kind of using Mango as the face of your fears, your worries, your needs, your wants, your desires, and created a parallel world of looking at your life through the eyes of Mango, your rescue. I too am a rescue owner, a little dog named Ragsby, who has just been an incredible part of my life, probably shown me more lessons about love than any part of my life, with the exception of the Bible and God's love for me. Take us back to this, on the surface it appears to be what a glorious life. 35 years in radio and television and entertainment, and yet you struggled with worry. You had lots of challenges. Did that start out in your youth? Was that a family origin kind of issue?
Absolutely. My father is a worrier. When I was young and stayed out later than I should have, even when I was in college, I lived at home for a spell. And if I wasn't home when I told him I would be home, he would pace the floor. And he worried about everything. And I think I adopted that and I perfected it. I'm a better worrier than he is. And it's all through my life. And I wouldn't call it, I'm not a doom and gloom guy, but I think worry is one of those things where you look at a potential situation, you start mulling it over in your head, and you start thinking of bad outcomes. And what if this happened? What if this happens? And I came up with a definition of worry. I say, being afraid of something that might happen that you don't think you can handle. And if we knew we could handle it, we wouldn't worry. But man, the more, I guess I have a big imagination. I don't know what it is that just I keep going and until I play out the situation in my head and went, oh man, if that happens, we're in trouble. And that's where I did. It culminated in 2011 when I really realized how dangerous and unhealthy and unproductive the worry is.
2011, 6 years ago, put you in your early 50s. So for 50 years, basically, you had been surrounded with a world of worry.
Yeah, a prisoner. I was a prisoner of it, and I wasted a lot of my life worrying.
How many of the things that you actually worried about ever came to pass?
Well, very, very little. And I saw some kind of statistic the other day that actually says that between 90 and 92% of the things we worry about never occur. And so, we put ourselves through this difficult and unsettling outlook and desperation almost sometimes, and nothing ever happens.
I like the definition that worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
Well, I think a lot of my life, I almost thought that if I didn't worry about something, then it wasn't important, which is a terrible way to be. But, our body isn't designed to be in a worried or anxious state. I understand that when you worry or when you're anxious about something, the chemical thing in your head, and I'm not a doctor, but you're in the same physical state that you would be at the threat of physical danger. And, our body's designed to withstand that for a short amount of time. But if we're in the bears chasing us state for a long period of time, it's detrimental. And during that period, I lost 30 pounds, and we'll talk about what happened.
Were you in church as a young man? Was your dad a churchgoer as a young man?
Yeah, oddly enough, I can't remember when I haven't been a believer. My parents were very diligent in getting us to church every week and in Sunday school, and they were examples of faith. But the problem that I had was I have always been a believer, but I wasn't believing what he was telling me.
So
I didn't believe in his power.
So things like Philippians, be anxious for nothing, or Matthew 6, why do you worry? All those instructions and admonitions were just words in a book, but I believe in Jesus. I just don't need to worry about what the words.
Well, I think I attempted to, and I knew that it wasn't right to worry about it, but still, I always, my wife said over and over, give this to God, give it to God every time I'm worried about something, and I would for about, 3 seconds, and then I'd take it right back, and I wasn't giving God the chance to be God. I would take it right back and try to put it in my hands.
Now, you and Michelle have been married for almost 20 years, so
Right.
you are already an addicted worrier.
Yeah, that came with the package, and she knew it. But as women often do, they believe that they can help and change us, and she was very instrumental in deepening my faith, finding God more abundantly. When I met her, I was at the stage where going to a Christian concert. She was the one that what helped me go to a Christian concert, and I felt walking in the door like I shouldn't be here. I'm a believer, but my actions and especially worrying about so many things. I don't know if he wants me here. And she's like, "You're crazy. What are you talking about? This is exactly where you need to be." And she was right.
The almost inherited behavior, the inherited cycle, How did that translate to your 4 children?
Wow, that's a good question. I think uh, as we parents, and especially in this time period, there's so much to worry about. I mean, goodness, you can't turn on the television and especially the news without seeing something to worry about. And that becomes commonplace to our kids. And I think that's very dangerous. I think stress and always having some place to go and worrying about being late and worrying about health and worrying about the world and what's all the latest disaster that's going on. We worry about it, and our kids totally pick up on that. And they also picked up on me minimizing my worry, and that's been a transforming thing for our whole family, which has been so wonderful to be an example for them.
Now, in the public eye, you had to wear a mask. You could be doing television or radio and being this frantic warrior as you're both analyzing or reporting or entertaining or commenting. You're in the role. And did you find that it was the entertainment industry, the media, that kind of was your escape, where you could go from immersed in the natural worry which consumed your life into a role which was devoid of all the things of the world because it wasn't real?
Yes. I got in the radio business back in the 80s. And I quickly figured out the only way to be successful in radio or any kind of entertainment was to put on a smile and to always be on, and to regardless of what is happening that day in my life, when the mic turns on or the camera turns on, you've got to erase it. You've got to put it in the back of your head, and that's a dangerous thing. To place things on the back burner, if you will, because they simmer and they stay there. And when the mic turns back off, it's even more prevalent. I heard a preacher one time say that, it's not me. I can't be talking right now. It's kind of a character, and we're in there. Our present mind is in there. It's almost like acting, but it's not fake. There are people, preachers and otherwise, who are totally fake. But you have to put on a face when you're in the public eye.
And when you did that, did you find yourself feeling like you were wearing a mask, feeling like it, or were you really just okay with it because that was your job and that's what you were supposed to do? So it was almost a comfort zone you entered that became reality to you.
I think there's a border there. In radio, when you're promoting a new song, say, and you're talking about it, inside, I may not like that song at all, but it's my job to make it a good song for people to continue to listen to that radio station. And it travels over into marketing. I'm into marketing. The television business I have, I make commercials and marketing videos for companies, and it's my job to make that product or that company look good and to look for the best parts of it. And no, it may not be lying, but certainly you put on the polished face. You put on the best look you can. And that's what people hire me to do. So, that travels into your own life. I don't think there's anybody alive who at some point doesn't feel like a fraud. You put on your best face all the time. I think church is a place for that. We walk in, and when I was going through this difficult period 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, I was in depression. And when somebody would ask me, "How you doing?" "I'm great. It's what a great day this is." And inside, I'm falling apart. And I think we're all guilty of that at some level. Some are better at putting those faces on than others. But I think I've heard of statistics that one of the most difficult places people are in when they're in church is they're worried about being found out. If they knew the real me, then oh boy, they wouldn't even like me. And I think that's very far from the truth. But I think it's a place where we all have found ourselves, and that's what I love about dogs. Is dogs see us for who we are, and they see us at some bad moments, and they come right up and say, "You're the greatest thing ever." And they wag their tail and they love you. And man, is that not an example of Christ?
Well, it is. What was it that first attracted you and your family to rescue?
Wow. I think it was a matter of understanding that there's so many dogs, animals, pets out there. Yes, you can go to a pet store, although I think it's been exposed a lot of those pets don't go through the greatest lives before they end up in the store.
Right.
But man, our family has a heart for adoption anyway. We have adopted Christian, our youngest, who's now 10. We adopted him from Guatemala at age 1. And it's just one of those things where you open your heart up enough to try to bless somebody, and you end up being 3 times as blessed yourself. And dogs, the adoption centers, most of them, not all of them, but most of them are actually kill centers. And if the dog sits there too long, they're not going to last. And that's really hard to bear. And we at one point had 5 dogs. One or 2 were older, so we now currently don't. But I don't know. It just when you do adopt a dog, especially a shelter dog, a rescue dog, they seem to know that they're getting a second chance. And they try harder, maybe, I don't know, but man, it's just there's places for all animals, and some people I know, they want purebreds, and they want a certain kind. They grew up with a certain kind, and they want that certain kind, and that's great. But there's so many dogs who just want another chance to please. And that's what we've found. It's hard to go to an adoption center and not get them all, but we know our limit, and we know how we can take care of the ones we have and love them, and it just works. It's a great thing.
Well, you and I share 2 things in common. My daughter is adopted.
Great.
I got her at birth. She's 28, and she's the light of my life. My story about my little rescue, Ragsby, you'll find quite interesting. She's a 12-pound Affenpinscher, and the Affenpinscher won the Westminster Kennel Club 3 years ago.
Nice.
And all of a sudden everybody became aware of Affenpinschers. I had a friend who had one rescued and was a very, very important part of their life. And I had just gone through a change, sold a house, moved into an apartment, and hadn't really thought about rescue, but I woke up one Saturday morning and I just said, this is time. I really want to get a dog. So I went to Pet Finders and I saw a picture of a dog, the first dog I saw, and said, that looks perfect. So I clicked through and got to the agency, and they said, well, you have to fill out this application process and go through all this stuff. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Where do you go to church? And they said, well, that's an odd question. I said, no, you'll find in the conversation it's not so odd. They told me where they went to church, and I said, okay, so if if I said pick up the phone and call the pastor and tell them that Rabbi Eric Walker wants to adopt a dog there, will I still have to go through the process of waiting the 3 days and go through all this? And they said, well, hold on a second. And about 30 seconds later, they came back and said, no, come get her. So I had an endorsement from the pastor who I had preached at his church. She probably,
Got you. Perfect.
When she connected everything, she realized she had heard me preach. So I get there and I see this dog and I'm just beside myself because she is the most precious, beautiful little dog I'd ever seen in my life. And I said, how long has she been here? And they said, almost a year. And I said, a year? Why?
Yeah.
They said, well, let us tell you the story. We went to a kill shelter, and that's where we go, to the kill shelters, and we get there, and Friday is kill day. We get there early in the morning, and we gather up as many as we can. And for some reason, this dog was missed, but was on the schedule, but hadn't been moved.
Okay.
We came back the next week and she was there, so we took her. And we take them back, we bathe them, we kind of clean them up a little bit, we photograph them, and within 2 or 3 days' time, we post them on Pet Finders, and we start getting calls. They have a 60-foot tractor trailer that they fill and go to the Northeast every week and take rescues up north. They're very, very involved. And
That's
they
great.
said, so we took all the pictures and we published the pictures, and every week would go by and we would see this little black dog, and her name was Rags, letter B. They had a Rags, letter A, a Rags, letter B, a Rags, letter C.
Okay.
So she was Rags, letter B. And they said, we can never understand why nobody ever called about her. And they said, we realized her picture was never published. So they said at 7:30 this morning, we realized that her picture hadn't been published, so we clicked the check mark and it was published. And you were the first person to ever see her picture.
My word. That sounds like a God calling card right there.
I drove that day. She's been with me ever since. And so, of course, what would I name her? I would name her Ragsby. She was Rags B.
Yes.
So she's Ragsby.
I love it.
It was a God-ordained thing because you're exactly right. She knew I needed her, and I knew that she needed me.
Yeah, at that moment.
And I don't know who rescued whom, because this has been just an incredible, it was just her third, I just celebrated her third birthday. It's really her fourth birthday. She was about a year old. Her only reason she was abandoned was because she has a crooked smile, so she wasn't show quality. Every other part of her is show quality. I'm sure that if they invested in orthodontics, they could have gotten her a straight smile, but she does have a little crooked smile, and when she looks at you, she crooked smiles at you. She knows the difference between a look and a smile. So it's really quite amazing.
That's great.
You have the story, One Dog's Faith, the story of Mango, and how Mango, your rescue, guided you through Mango's eyes, your struggle with worry, and when your life converged with the lens of Mango's life, your deliverance came.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. And what you said earlier about
I put it that way because that is our lead into break.
Perfect.
And that's why I put it that way, because when
you are a media professional.
Right, because when we come back, the story we're going to tell is how the lives and the lens of Mango were the antidote to the fears and the worries of Tom Baker. We'll be right back. Shalom. I'm the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, Executive Director of Igniting a Nation and host of the daily TV program Revealing the Truth, seen live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time at www.ianbn.com, and then replayed throughout the day and night via our website. All of our segments can be seen on the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel. Since our launch in January of this year, we've expanded our global reach to over 54 countries with a social media following of over 125,000. Our commitment is to bring you the most in-depth interviews with authors, subject matter experts, and thought leaders from around the world. We have interviewed guests from Israel, Brazil, England, India, and all across North America. All of our authors are featured on the Books and Media page on our website, www.ianbn.com. There you can find a direct link to the book you want to order, and we receive a small commission directly from Amazon. There is no cost to you for this service. In addition to our daily teachings and interviews, we make available to you the archive of all of the interviews on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram channels. Our live program is available from our homepage, and there is never a charge to you for any of this access. We made the decision long ago that we would remain a commercial-free resource that would not be influenced by any pressure from any outside company. There are only two ways that we are able to continue to operate this ministry and provide you with the only live 4-hour daily Christian television talk show program. The first is through your support and tax-deductible contributions to Igniting a Nation. These can be made directly through the donate button on the website or sent through the mail to Igniting a Nation, 2700 Corporate Drive, Suite 120, Birmingham, Alabama, 35242. The other way we support the program is by offering you a unique opportunity to have access to over 10 years worth of teachings on a subscription basis. The teaching archives contains all of my prior sermons, Torah studies, prophecy in the news videos, and much more for the low subscription price of $5 per month. This subscription grants you unlimited access to over 800 hours of content not available elsewhere, and is updated weekly with the most current prophecy classes. In addition to 20 hours of original TV programming each weekday, we invite you to join us live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings for our Prophecy in the News classes. The times and locations are listed on our events page on the website www.ianbn.com. Every day, you and I are faced with the challenge of where we will go to hear the truth. We are committed to bring you the only program of its kind that covers the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. We cannot do this without your support. Since we launched on January 5th, 2017, we have aired over 300 individual teachings, interviews, and commentaries not available anywhere else. We are now working side by side with almost every major Christian publishing house to bring you the most in-depth feature interviews possible. Our 1-hour features address every subject that affects the believer's life. We are hearing of salvations from the Middle East, Africa, and all across the United States. Lives are being changed every day, and we have only just begun. Our mission is to become your trusted resource and grant you access to the people, tools, and information you need to grow in your relationship with the Lord. You can help us by liking us on social media and through your financial support. We know you have many choices in who you support, but we are prayerfully asking you to consider helping us keep revealing the truth, true to our calling, to cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth like no other program available. Donate today and help us bring the message to the four corners of the earth. Visit www.ianbn.com and donate, buy a book, or subscribe to our teaching archives. Without you, we do not exist. Back. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, a journey from fear, anxiety, and worry to confidence, to love, to rescue, and how a dog named Mango brought deliverance to a life which was consumed by fear, anxiety, and worry. Tom, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Eric. I'm glad to be here.
So as we look at this story, it starts with your life. You feel consumed with worry. You hit the wall of worry, which was precipitated by a series of events. What were those events that took you to really, I mean, you kind of set a pretty high bar for worry. Now
I was already there.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you've set the pinnacle. What took you to the pinnacle of worry?
Well, I'll be the first to say that what I went through, sometimes it pales in comparison to what some people go through, but I use it as an example to show how deep and how dark and how deep of a pit we can put ourselves in. I'm in the TV business.
Yes.
We talked about that a little bit. I've owned my own company now for 15 years. I was at HGTV as an employee and over their editing department, and left and opened my own business with them as a client. And it was wonderful. The first 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it just kept getting larger. And at some point, it even doubled every year. And so to keep up with that, I bought equipment, I hired employees, and just kept trying to keep up with the demand. And also at the same time, keep up with the reputation of being top quality. And so the people I had were expensive. But they were also really good.
Right.
And it just, the perfect storm happened in 2011. It's hard to explain, and I'm not sure I can. Maybe it was a delay of the 2008 economy issue. It was also just a culmination of producers that I had went on to other jobs, and their replacements had other people that they liked. Budgets got slashed, projects got killed, kind of all at the same time, and I was left holding a very expensive bag. I was working with graphic artists, I was working with camera people, voiceover artists, all these people who were really good and expensive as well. And when business died, I became unable to pay them. I had lots of bank payments, lease payments, and of course, just keeping the business running. And quickly, my savings died with the business savings that I thought so intelligently I had. Things just fell apart really quickly. I went through personal savings. I went through retirement. I maxed out credit cards. And I didn't want the appearance that my business was failing, so I did not want to lay people off. I did not want to sell equipment. And the people that I had working for me were friends, and I felt responsible for them and their families. So it was a hard place to be in. And ultimately, I paid my employees instead of the IRS. Not a suggestion, not a proper decision, but I can't change it now. But I got in bad trouble with them. And I got the visit from an IRS agent who was very friendly, very nice, kind of like looking the devil in the face. He's not always ugly. He can be very cunning and very handsome. But he politely looked at me, asked me to sign a piece of paper, and said, you sign this. This basically means we can take everything you own if you don't pay. And I didn't have the means to pay. My business got cut pretty much into a third. And I ultimately had to lay everybody off, and it killed me. I felt like a complete failure. I didn't want to answer the phone. I didn't want to go to the mailbox because all it was people saying past due, past due, past due. And very quickly, I just withdrew. I was kind of disengaged with my family because I was consumed with this debt that I had, with this thing that I really couldn't get out of.
Right.
I owed too much money on my equipment to stop. It was just there was a point where I closed the door to my office one time, going home, and I looked up in the sky and I said, God, burn it down, please. And that's I wouldn't do it myself, but I wanted him to. It was a desperation. And we covered the fact that I was a believer already,
right.
But I just had these things in my mind of maybe God's mad at me. And of course, this was all my doing. I could have made a lot of different decisions and not put myself in this place, but I still prayed to God to take it away. I thought maybe he was mad at me. Maybe I'd run out of blessings. I don't know. But I started yelling when I prayed. I was praying in desperation of take this away, please. And I should have, looking back on that, I should have just prayed for strength, for guidance, for wisdom. And what I was doing when I prayed take this away was put me on the bench, take me out of the game. I don't want to play, and that's the perfectly wrong attitude to take.
Right.
But that's our desperation, and that's our situation taking control of our heart talking. And I really put myself in a bad place. During the course of a year, I lost 30 pounds due to stress, due to feeling like I wasn't worth anything to anybody. I wasn't good for my family. And that's signs of depression. And I didn't ever get myself clinically diagnosed, but talking to people now, I went through very much depression. And my wife desperately tried to reach me. She was a rock through this whole thing, but she also kind of went in protection mode. But she tried hard to reach me and say, just give this to God. What are you doing? And my church would have been wonderful had I told anybody. I didn't tell anybody. But Mango, this sweet, silly lick factory, a rescue dog, somehow reached me. Somehow, over and over, when I would come home from a terrible day at work, and she would meet me at the door and look up, lick my hand, and I would look down at her, and she just was like, I don't care what happened to you today. I don't care what you did. I think you're the greatest thing ever, and I love you no matter what. And that, along with my wife's encouragement, and just continually trying to point me to Christ, it started making a dent. And as things progressed, it didn't improve, but I started watching Mango more, and I started watching her ways and her approach at life. And if you think about it, dogs, they're really examples of, one, how we could live, and they're also examples of a godly life. Forgiveness, patience, loyalty, how to relax, companionship, just dealing with every day as though this was the last day. And the big thing that dogs really teach us, offer us, and offer examples of is unconditional love. And think about it, Eric, for a second. I wouldn't do this, but if I put my wife, Michelle, and my dog, Mango, in the trunk of my car for 10 minutes and closed it, and then opened it back up, who would be glad to see me? Not my wife. She would have a few things to say. She would stick around and she would ultimately forgive, but the dog, Mango, would be wagging her tail the second I opened it. And
No
I think
question.
that's kind of an example of unconditional love. That's what they stand for.
So you began to watch Mango. What were some of the, and I want to kind of connect the dots here. There were natural inclinations of a dog and a dog's nature and a dog's character in the development of relationships, the things that are pleasing to them, the messages they send, the connection, the sensitivity. But they're also God's creation, and let everything that has breath praise the Lord. We forget that God's covenant with Noah was also God's covenant with the animals.
Right.
They were included in a covenant relationship with God.
Right.
There are so many scriptures about the animals and about the dogs and about stewardship and the lessons. But what I'd like you to do for the audience, because they may be considering, as this holiday season comes, a pet. And your story about Mango and the lessons you learned were supernatural lessons learned through natural occurrences, because that's how we learn our supernatural lessons. That's what God uses, the natural, to reveal the supernatural. And rather than guide you through chapter and through the book, which I can do, I've got it right here, I'd kind of like you to tell me, in the beginning of this incredible, almost breakdown state that you're in, how the knots began to come untied.
Well, the first and most powerful thing that I noticed about her was the simple word today. Dogs do not care about tomorrow. They don't care or even consider what happened yesterday. They live now. And I totally forgot that. I was living in tomorrow. I was living in next month. I was living in how am I going to pay for this? How and angry at myself for putting myself in this place. And so I was living in the past, and none of it included today. And watching her and her ultimate joy, the tail wags all the time. I give one glance at her with one eye and she wags her tail. She's just happy. And that's something that I had to watch in order to adopt a little bit. Whenever I ask her if she wants to go in the car, every time I leave the house, she's at the door begging to go with me. And when I actually do let her go in the car, it's like the greatest day ever. It could be the last moment of her life, and she would be ecstatic. And when she gets in the car, she presses her nose up against the window. And yes, I have quite a few nose prints on my window. But she's asking me, I think, to roll down the window and let me smell and let me see the blessings that are out there. And she just wants to experience it and take it all in. And I think we're all guilty of, when something happens, when we're in a struggle, we so focus on that one thing and totally miss all these blessings that God is placing around us. They may be tiny, but they're there. And it's just a little reminder that He's there with us. And I miss that. And another important thing I missed and I noticed out of her, and I think many dogs are this way, is they're servers. They have a servant attitude. They love others more than themselves, and they just want to please. They don't have a lot to work with. They don't have opposing thumbs. They can't speak, but they offer everything they have to try to help us. They seem to know when we're sick. They seem to know when we're down and need just a little distraction. Mango will drop her favorite rope at my feet at just the right time to say, come on, let's just go play. Please, just go play and get just forget about this for a minute. And when I realized that a way of therapy or a way of just getting out of myself for a minute is to go help others, to find somebody who is in need, and that you don't have to ever look far to find somebody who's in more need than you. Once I started realizing, and my church is the outlet for that, is just to go find ways that our church is helping people and go take part in that, then the concern of my problem diminished greatly when I realized there are a lot more people in trouble than me. And so just those three things, among many others, she really helped pull me away. And I learned through that process that dealing with struggle, as much as we try to avoid struggle, is our greatest teacher. It's the only place that we learn. And God never promised comfort. There's not one word in the Bible that says, I promise you comfort if you follow me. It never says that. Comfort is our want. We want to sit in the easy chair as long as possible. But in the easy chair I have at home, this nice little leather recliner, I'll learn nothing in that chair. I shut down. And I don't want to shut down in life anymore. I want to experience struggle as much as I don't like it. But I realize coming out of it at the other end, I'm stronger. And I see God. If we were all comfort all the time, if we were comfortable, we would never look for God. We wouldn't need him because it's fine. Things are fine. And I believe God sees our need for struggle and for exercising our muscles, not our physical muscle, but our muscle of thinking and our muscle of going through life and taking the attitude of, I'm not going to make this very well without God. And when I realized that this struggle was a learning process, a growing process, then that became easier to me. And I looked and found peace, and I found contentment. I was worried. What was I worried about? I was worried about losing my stuff.
Right.
I was worried about losing my position or my status. And when I started realizing that isn't important, I realized my family was important. I realized serving God was important. And wherever he takes me in this service is okay. And when I'm okay with that, then there is nothing to worry about. I mean, I can't say that I don't worry, but I catch myself. And serving him and being content with where he wants you to serve him, and whatever position you're in or whatever financial state you're in, realizing that he'll take care of the needs, then man, there's joy and there's fulfillment. I've never experienced joy like this in my life. And I don't understand the peace and joy. I mean, I wake up every day going, God, let's go do this. I'm so excited about whatever struggle happens because I know, one, God's holding my hand when I reach out and grab his. And he will help make it a blessing in some way or another, and I will grow from it. And so I want to spread this joy as much as I can.
Do you think you could have learned it any other way than through, this relationship with Mango?
Oh, maybe, but I think it was a combination. And most especially, I think God will use any way possible to reach us. And it's never the way we expect. He was trying to use my wife, but I was just, I just wasn't listening. I tried to listen to her, but it just, I got too consumed in my own worry. And somehow God tried to the dog, and the dog spoke to me.
So somehow, sometimes you heard from the Lord and he sounded just like your dog.
Well, here's a scenario. I was out on the deck. I feed our dogs out on the deck. I don't know, it's just kind of a tradition, if you will. And there was one night where the kids were inside watching some Disney movie, and there was a dancing scene, and the kids were kind of dancing, with each other and being silly. And I'm in this low self-pity state, and I go out and feed the dogs, and I just look up at the sky, and mentally I say, God, when am I ever going to feel like dancing again? And I'm not really a dancer, but it's a figure of speech, and the fact that when am I going to feel like letting go and just enjoying life again? And I heard it plain as day. It wasn't audible, but I heard it in my soul deep, and the word was now. Now is when you enjoy life. In the midst of a struggle, enjoy. It's an adventure. It's a journey. This is a sad chapter, a difficult chapter, but that chapter will end and we will move on. Take it and run with it. Embrace it. Learn from it. Find me. And I just felt this overwhelming peace at that moment. I've never felt my face decrinkled. And right at that moment, Mango jumps on me with her paws right here as if she was going to dance with me. And I just went, oh, my Lord. It was just magic to me. And it sounds silly, but that's the way he spoke to me. And, I don't think it's any coincidence at all that dogs are our best friends. I think God put them here, as he did. He put everything here. But I think one of the dog's purposes was to help us. There's guide dogs. There's dogs that sniff out bombs. There's dogs that sniff out people's health problems, diabetes, blood sugar. But there's also just that peace that they offer, just having. And there are other pets that do that too. But I'm particular about dogs. And we even have a cat, as you said early on. But I think he uses dogs to show a little glimpse of him, and also an example of how we can live a more fulfilled life. They don't have a lot of time.
Right.
They know that.
You're out now, excuse me, speaking. You're out now speaking about worry, about fear, about anxiety, telling the story about Mango, about One Dog's Faith. How can people reach you? How can they book you? And what is your parting message for our audience today?
Well, answer to question A, tom@onedogsfaith.com is my email. And I love to speak to people because I think everybody has worry in them. And I don't say I've erased worry, but I have managed it. Yes. I catch myself when I do worry. And I just look for the opportunity to tell others about this joy. And speaking has become a passion to me because every time I do, I run into somebody who is really struggling. And it's universal. Finding the peace of God and finding, yes, this life is difficult, but it is so fulfilling if we just change our perspective. The problem is not the problem. The problem is how we address the problem, how we embrace the problem or deal with it. You can insert any struggle, and if you just say, I want to have God help me through this. I want to learn about me. I want to learn about God. I want to learn about how to help others through situations like this. I tell people that every disaster I have looked back on in my life has involved a blessing. I've gone through divorce. I've gone through job loss. I've gone through, you name it, insert struggle here. But every one of them has become a blessing because I've been able to help somebody else through a similar problem. When somebody's going through something and a person looks at you and says, yeah, I feel your pain. And inside you're going, no, you don't. But if you say, I've been through that. I understand what you're feeling. You know, I can't fix it, but I can be a shoulder. I can help you. And I've been able to do that. And when I now look back and say those became blessings, then the struggles even become less, because ultimately this difficulty I'm facing now can become a blessing for somebody else if I allow it.
Amen.
And I think God uses things like that. I don't believe he points at us and say, you're going to lose your job today. See how you handle it. I think things happen because of bad choices. I think God's all powerful and may be able to prevent things, but I think he knows us best to say, I know he can handle this. I know he can weather this. If he reaches out, we'll learn some really cool stuff through this.
Amen. Amen. We've been talking with Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. I encourage you to get the story about Tom and his rescue dog Mango, and the antidote to fear, worry, and anxiety through lessons learned from a dog about our Almighty Creator. Tom, thank you so much for being with us here on Revealing the Truth. We look forward to seeing you again. Many blessings on the success of the book. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth. Back.